Hey, what's happening, guys? This is Shaun Benton here, and today I have my co-host Marcus Weldon. We have Mr. Robert Monti, and we have our guest pastor today, Mr. Joel Trice. We are missing our pastor John Nance this morning. He had a prior engagement he had to attend to, but nonetheless, we're gonna have a great show for y'all today. Thank y'all. We are so excited for y'all to be here. Joel, we asked all our pastor guests to lead us in this with a word of prayer. Do you mind taking us in?
I don't mind at all.
Prayer?
Let's go.
All right.
God, I just thank you so much for this day. I thank you for this group of men. God, as we have conversation together, God, I pray that you would just, God, let us have a great morning full of great conversations about faith and about different things, God. I pray that you just bless this time together in this fellowship, Lord, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Marcus Weldon, how you doing, brother?
Good, man. Tired of these dreary days. I'm ready for the rain to stop.
Well,
we need the rain, but I don't know.
I know what you mean.
Don't want to get out of bed.
Kind of been one of them weeks myself. It's been one that's like I have been forcing myself to work. Normally I enjoy to work. This week's been like, man, I'd rather curl up in there and watch ET.
Yeah. Well, sometimes as real estate agents, we have to take a day off during the week when we can. And so I was like, man, I'd really like to take one of these days off where it's rainy and cold and just relax in the house all day. And I have been so blessed I have not been able to do that.
That's a good thing. That is a blessing. But I identify with you. These gray skies, man, they kill your mood.
Yeah.
Well, Robert, how have you been doing this week?
Good. It's been a challenging week, mainly because my wife, and you probably don't know, Pastor Joel, she fell and broke her shoulder.
Man.
It's been like out of 4 weeks now, going on the 5th starting today. Of course, the orthopedist said it's probably the most painful break you can have. So sleep and rest have been challenging because she can't get comfortable in the bed and sleeping, because whichever way she even moves, even if it's just a little bit, it just inflames her whole shoulder. So sleep and rest have been fleeting. Let's put it that way.
I wrecked a motorcycle one time and broke some ribs, and I found out it was easier for me to, more comfortable to sleep on the couch. I kind of wedged myself in this one little position where I didn't have to move around. I was like, so I slept on the couch for about 6 weeks.
Wow, man.
She does find it a little more comforting to sit in a recliner. It's just she still has a hard time sleeping in the recliner all night. So, just keep her in prayer. It's they said 12 weeks could be the healing time, so she's trying to do it without surgery, and we're just praising God that she doesn't have to have surgery. So we're believing for that, and it just takes time. Of course, we want it to be compressed and everything to move faster, and can't you do it now? And but he's doing it. His way is the best.
Yeah, that's a fact, man. Well, how about your business? Did you get any more under contract?
Not this month. That's been challenging too. It's been a little bit slow with walk-in traffic, and trying to get in touch with real estate agents to see if they have clients. So clients, they're saying, has been harder to get to this time of year, especially because government shutdown, high interest rates. Now you throw in the holiday season that's upon us. People are just waiting till next year, so it's hard to find that urgency out there that we're really.
I think it's house prices more than interest rates.
That too.
Yeah, because interest rates right now are lower than they were when I bought my first house in 2003. I think they're below average.
Yeah, perspective. You're right. Yeah.
In the 80s they were up to 19%.
I know, man. Isn't that crazy?
I know.
That's just nuts.
So I don't blame it on the interest rates anymore. It's the price of houses. They're coming down a little bit. I got one under contract for $100,000 less than ask price.
It's like this is one of those weird markets where that's a reality.
Yeah. And then I asked for another $10,000 in concessions yesterday.
Yeah,
didn't get it, but
well, yes. Well, Joe, how's your week been?
It's been good, man. We actually came off, me and Carson, the other youth pastor, over at Christ Chapel. We just come off of a fall youth retreat with middle school and high school students.
Okay.
Luckily, we were close. We were over in the Rock area over at Mountain Gap, the campground over there. But we took about 60 students over for Friday through Sunday. So just kind of getting our bearings and getting back in the flow of things. But we have another event coming up this evening that was supposed to be an outdoor event, but with the weather, we're going to move it into the youth room. But just, staying busy.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Well, Carter will be there, my son.
Yeah.
Yeah, he really loves the youth group over there. He says that they just always doing something. It's like always a lot of energy, and so he has a good time.
And that's what you want, man. It's just, I guess, the method of reaching teenagers, right? It's you meet people where they are, whether it's adults, kids, youth, whatever the age group. You try to get their attention and let them have fun, but also share the gospel with them. That's the most important thing. Is just, but the methods, like they do sometimes, they change, but however we can get their attention.
Yeah.
So,
well, I noticed.
Can I ask him something?
Yeah, go ahead.
You were saying they're always doing something. So
Yeah.
how do you come up with all of those ideas to keep them entertained and engaged?
So probably the biggest thing on our end is just knowing that we don't always have to have the idea, right? We have a team full of people. So I'll ask questions to the kids team sometimes over at Christ Chapel. I'll find stuff on ideas off of YouTube or, stuff you see on Reels. I talk to other pastors who've done it before, right? Some of our pastors that have been youth pastors and been successful at it. So that's been my biggest thing. And when you get around people like that are creative, it kind of gets those creative juices flowing for you also. Sometimes you kind of hit that rut if you're just trying to do it on your own. And I made that mistake early on as a youth pastor I'm the youth pastor, so I got to come up with the idea, but learning that I don't have to have the idea. There's somebody on my team or something, even a volunteer that I can talk to and say, hey, what if we do it this way? And it's like, okay. So we've got a team full of creative people with our staff, but also volunteers that help with all of that. So
That's awesome, man.
That's great.
Well, I know, with the youth today, it's quite different than the youth of our childhood. Like we would spend our time, skateboarding, riding bicycles, playing in the woods.
Yeah.
Like my favorite memory as a youth was going out in the woods and building huts. My neighbor and I one of us had a machete, one of us had a hatchet. We would go and cut down like trees about like this big, and then we'd make steps and try to find a big tree with a V in it and make us a ladder and go up there and build like a whole platform. It's kind of crazy, but back behind my house back in the 80s and 90s, there's probably no less than about 20 huts that were about 20 feet up in the air, and what we were building them for, I have no idea. Back then, we used to build booby traps, and I am so not joking. And I don't even know why we did it. We would dig holes. We would get sticks and sharpen the sticks and then plant them in the holes and then try to cover it with leaves and debris so that if bad guys ever came in, they would fall and kill themselves. And now I'm thinking, what in the world were we thinking? Like literally, these kids today gonna be walking down the woods and fall in one of our 20-year-old booby traps and stabbed by sticks. It's crazy, man. But it's now the youth today, because I've had so many come through my house. It's like everything is instantaneous. It's like they don't even give it time to marinate on one thought before they have 3 other thoughts pop in their head. And it's like if you ever watch them, and we are all guilty of this. Social media has kind of trained our brain for this, but we see one thing, we scroll. We see one thing, we scroll. Kids get on YouTube and they watch these shorts and these reels that are 10 seconds long or less. Mm-hmm. And it's like 5 to 10 seconds, 5 to 10 seconds, 5 to 10 seconds. And I couldn't imagine the role of a youth pastor today having to compete against that for their attention and be like, hey, don't look at your phones for an hour. I got something more important to tell. This is telling you about God. So my hat's off to you, brother.
Yeah. Yes, sir. No, it's a great time. I enjoy it. So I've been a youth pastor over at Christ Chapel now for probably, I want to say off and on for 4 years, because things change at Christ Chapel rapidly. I think you get any of you that have visited over there, you see that. But it's a good thing. And in all of that, God has worked. But getting to work with people like Pastor Randy Huff, who's the pastor over at Christ Chapel in Hamilton, at that location, that's kind of who I came on board with and kind of helped train me in that area. And I worked alongside of him and learned a lot from him. Like Randy's, if you've ever been around him, he's a character. Creative way of thinking, creative way of doing things, but he has such a talent at that. But just getting to work with him. But yeah, the students, man. And the way we have it now, as of March this year, we split middle school and high school. And I think that's been a game changer. It created challenges for, how you do live worship on a Wednesday, having the people to make that happen and still have, a good quality sound, good quality worship with those services. But also, I think the benefit of it is students that maybe were slipping through the crack, because we're running 200 to 250 students on a Wednesday night. Wow. If you have them all in one room, that splits that in half, at that point. So students that may have been falling through the crack at a certain point, you're starting to build relationships a lot easier with not only with the youth pastors, but with the leaders. But man, it's definitely a challenge. I know on the middle school end of things, which is, I'm the middle school pastor, so that 6th through 8th grade age range, you're right, man. It's an attention thing for sure. And kind of how we structure our services, we have to think about that. Doing game times, allowing, a 5-minute break here without them really knowing, like, hey, that's what we're doing, but we're giving you a 5-minute break to get some of that energy out, talk, get some of that last play time out before we go into worship, and then a message, and then just how you time your messages, And I think also allowing that, hey, we have a schedule, we have a way we do things, but also allowing the Holy Spirit to move when it wants to move, and being cognizant of that and thinking of that. So it's fun. It's
Man,
a lot of fun.
A lot is what it is. Yeah. So, Joel, let me ask you this: where did you learn to shred on a guitar and
I wouldn't call what I do shredding on the guitar.
and then have those pipes, man. Robert also attends Christ Chapel, and I know Marcus has been there many times. So I've heard you sing multiple times, man. You got a really strong talent. Did you been playing music all your life?
So it kind of started when I started taking guitar lessons when I was like 14, because like every, most teenage boys, you want to be in a rock band or you want to play sports or something like that. And that was my thought. Probably I had all these rock bands that I liked and looked up to. And I started playing guitar, but the commitment level wasn't there at 14 years old. So my parents were like, hey, you're not really practicing, so we're going to quit doing this for a little bit till you get a little older. But it's funny how God works, because I started getting more involved in my youth ministry when I was about 16 years old. I was at First Assembly in Thomaston at the time, and that's the church I grew up in. And they had a idea to do like a youth day, like a youth takeover kind of Sunday, where the youth pastor would speak, and we were going to have a youth band that morning. The problem was we didn't have a youth band. It was hilarious. But we had like 3 or 4 students get up there and sing. I was one of them. And we had a family that kind of led worship for us. And once I got up there and I sang, and they were like, hey, you can really sing a little bit. Let's try to get you up here and work with you some more. And that's kind of how that door opened for me, and just started leading worship. And it was funny because styles changed, but I didn't change that much. I had long, ratty looking hair. I had an earring. I wore like these baggy, holy looking pants, flip flops, and I would wear that on stage on a Sunday, and that happened for about 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden we had a dress code on a Sunday.
That's pretty good.
But yeah, that's kind of where it started for me, is just singing with my youth ministry, and then from that point it kind of went from starting a youth band and all these things. Just you have ideas as a kid, and none of us were really that talented, me included, but we were just had this dream and this passion of doing this, and God just kind of flourished that over time. You really don't know where it's leading, but God's working and doing something. So it's been fun to see how that has kind of worked and played out.
That's awesome, man. It is. Well, I know, like I said, I enjoy hearing you sing. Everybody don't have those talents.
I do not. No.
Me either, man. Dude, I could, I love singing. I have to drown myself out with the music. I have to turn it up so loud that I can't hear myself.
Right.
Because I love singing, but if my voice hits a song, it don't work.
I don't even like hearing my voice on this.
Yeah, really.
It's like if I go back and watch it, I'm like, man.
I'll just say this from anybody that's a musician or a singer or anything or worship leader, it's the same thing. Like you hear yourself back and you're like, oh man, it's like I don't enjoy it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm like, oh man, why did I say that, or why did I do that, or why did I sing it that way? Yeah.
That's funny
Same thing.
though, man. It's like you and your fellow youth pastor, both of y'all are artists. Like now he is the drummer. And not just a drummer like that fills in. Dude can wear out some drums.
He
Like
can.
man, he looks like Animal from the Muppets. And it's like, wow, dude, this dude is going off the chain. Like this, but that's what I love about it, man. He does such a great job behind the drum set. But again, I wish you would play more, man. I don't see you out there singing and playing more.
Well, a lot of that is just different jobs, different things that we do at the church with the staff. Like on Sundays, usually if I'm in Zebulon, I'm usually helping Scott Custer, who's over AV. So front of house worship mix to live stream sound to running cameras, switcher, all that kind of stuff that happens to make our live stream experience and our in-house experience work. So a lot of times I'm behind the scenes doing that. So which is a lot of fun. I enjoy it. I enjoy that aspect of it. And I'm more of an introverted personality. Naturally, I've gotten better with, conversation and getting out, but it's one of those things that I have to make myself do sometimes.
I get it, dude. I'm the same way, man. People who hear me talk every week and who get to know me, they're like, "You're an introvert," and then the people who really get to know me like really good, they're like, "Oh yeah, he's an introvert." Like whenever I go to so we go to meetings every Wednesday. Whenever I leave here, I go to my office in Peachtree City, and there's roughly 100 to 150 people who join us every week for the meeting. And when we go over there, I've been there 7 years. I've been on the leadership council. I've done so many things over there for my office, but every single week I sit in the very back of the room, like I'm a back row Baptist brother, like I'm in the back of the room. And then I will say this too. Now, once I had been there so long and got to know everybody, I'm super nice and I pride myself on that. But I will say that just if you know me in general, and I go to a place where I don't know a lot of people or don't know any people, I may come off a little bit rude because I will not speak, man. Like you're gonna have to come up to me and start talking to me heavy, because I don't know. It's not my natural way of doing things. I just naturally am not that social butterfly. Yeah. But that's one of the things about doing this. It's like this to me makes sense because this I feel so comfortable in a room of 5 men. And then whenever you put me in a room of 50 men, hey, dude, whenever I went to that men's conference thing, like I totally sat by myself. Like everybody in that room had buddies and everybody was all, hey, Phil, hey, Bob, how are you? Everybody's going together and hanging out with their buddies. Like I walked in there, sat down and like by myself, because that's just my nature. But nonetheless, God made me that way for a reason. I mean, I've grown to love myself in that way, but it's like, it is really, it is funny whenever you meet people who are extroverted and then they're like, hey, I can't believe you didn't make 500 calls this week. What? You don't like talking to people? And I'm like, no, that kind of triggers me big time, man. Like I couldn't just sit there and make 500, but it's people and it's your job and this is how you make money. And I'm like, yeah, I know it's a struggle. It's a real struggle for me. And they're like, I don't see how. So extroverts, introverts, we all think totally opposite.
We do. And it's funny, most of the time because it's one of those ways, God has a sense of humor, because it's usually the introverted people that God puts in those positions to talk to people.
Yeah.
Whether it be your career or, ministry outlet that he brings you to. And that's the crazy thing a lot of times about our careers and even about ministry, how they go hand in hand is it's all about people, right?
Yeah.
So
It is community.
it really, for me, it's like I've really got to lean heavily on the Lord in those situations, because, man, leading up to stuff, like even, messages I've been speaking for, in youth for 4 years, and I still get those butterfly moments where you're like, man, I hope this goes well. Or like even with, leading worship, same thing. And it's once you get up there and once you do it, it's like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I go to Rock Springs, and they've developed this program called Next Steps.
Yeah.
To go through, help you find your spiritual gifts, and help you get plugged in places to serve that are, fit
Right.
your personality and things and what you like to do.
Yeah.
Because if you get, sometimes plugged into something that you just, I saw a need, this needed to be done.
That can be dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just not something you're gifted towards.
Right.
Like I'm extroverted. I know it. I can stress an introvert out real quick, especially some of these real estate agents that just want to text. No, I want to talk to you on the phone.
Yeah.
You send me a text, you immediately get a phone call like that. As soon as I see the text, oh, I'm gonna call you. You want to talk? It's like I'd rather be in a room of 50 men I don't know than to be on camera.
Right.
Isn't that fun?
It's hilarious.
And Shaun's the exact opposite. He's more comfortable. I'm like, I don't want to be on camera. I just try to in a room of 50 people I don't know. I'll make friends. I'm good with that.
I'll figure it out, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just shared you did the cemetery tour of Griffin, and like you just got out in front of a bunch of people and he's giving this tour.
Yeah.
Now I did not know you were introverted. I see all these great videos, and wasn't it a few weeks ago you went to some festival and you're the big MC? It's like,
Yeah.
how do you go from sitting back row to like being the center of attention like that?
So I will say this is like So I don't have much fear. Just being real with you. I put all my fear away because I know God's got me.
Yeah.
And I know that if God puts something on my plate, that God's going to take care of it. But I kind of let everybody know up front, like, look, if there's any errors here, this is the guy you want to talk to. It ain't me. Because, like, look, this is not my lane. And I'm doing it just to be obedient. But trust me, I see this going south fast. So you look to him if you got any questions. But that being said, I just have this sense of service that I've kind of always had in my life. Like you said a minute ago, if I see a need, I'm always been the one that says where's the good Samaritan if it's not me? Like I have to step up. I have to do something. So whenever we had that, it was called Bingo Boots and Barbecue, and basically it's a Keller Williams thing for the nonprofit, and it's to raise money for our community's kids who are, less fortunate. And that was the whole purpose of it all. And we do it every year. And for the past 5 years, I've emceed it. For 3 of those 5 years, I had a partner who I leaned heavily on. And this guy that I leaned heavily on was not able to make it this year. So it was me again by myself. And so this is how it works. To show you the introvert side of me and show you the extrovert side of my friend that always does it with me. Before the show starts, he's always out walking the crowd, saying hey to everybody, talking to everybody. I'm always sitting behind the computer playing the next song, pretending to fix the mic the 15th time. It's like, and then while everybody was doing this one this past time, it was at Trillith. Well, if people don't know what Trillith is basically the home of all these studio people who are making movies in Fayetteville. Yep. And Trillith is the epicenter of that. And so it's got a lot of famous people, like seeing famous people there is a norm because that's where they live. And it was a big deal for me because I was like, dude, Tom Cruise and Tom Hanks could walk through here at the same time. You know, you never know who's
Never
gonna
know.
pop up. And then at the same time, it was unnerving. But I just get up there and the way that I do it is I just put it in my head like, this is a job. I'm going to do this job, and whatever happens, happens. But it won't be because of me. It'll be because of him. And then just recognizing within every ounce of me that, look, God put me in this position for a reason. I'm going to be the person that I'm supposed to be. Like I told, you know, even in amongst a big crowd like that, I told everybody, you know, hey, we're doing this for the kids, and this by God's grace that we were able to even help. So let's make sure we remember that, and that we're all here for the same reason. And that's how I proceeded forward. And then we had a whole fun night and of cutting up and playing bingo and auctioning off cakes for $5,000, and it was just crazy. But nonetheless, that's kind of it's not my natural thing. But there again, if we ever look at the Bible, like the people that God called, they were not always natural extroverted leaders. Lots of times they were quite the opposite of that. They weren't great speakers, and then God had them preaching to, you know, thousands of people, and it's like, but this guy can't preach. Like he can't even talk straight. And if that was anybody, that is Shaun Benton. Like, look, brother, my tongue gets tied. I sound. Let me tell y'all this. This will give you a good idea. So back in the day, I owned a lawn care and landscaping company. While I owned this lawn care and landscaping company, I had this guy call me, and this happened twice. And it was totally different people, and it was years apart. Two people over my career have called me and said, hey, I'd like you to come look at my yard. I live at X residence, and we're wanting to get some sod. We want to get an irrigation system and need a little bobcat work. And I was like, okay. I'd have a whole conversation, and then they'd be like, well, when do you want to come over? I'll come over right now. Oh, whoa, wait 1 second. What? You coming over right now? Are you sure you're okay to come over right now? Totally fine. Like, are you available? Yeah, I'm available, but are you sure? Yes, I'm positive. Here comes Shaun pulling up, drive over there, get out and begin to speak to these people in person. Now, if you know me in person, then you kind of get a sense of who I am. And I'm not a big drinker at all. They would be like, man, on the phone, I thought you was intoxicated. Like, seriously, man, you're good. But I mean, it's just so funny meeting you in person and realizing you're not. But I was so convinced you were tore up, man. Your words are all slurred together, and I was like, man, that's a crazy dialect to have, but nonetheless, that's the one I live with. And then you go off and you have that in your back pocket of, hey, I'm such a great speaker, I sound intoxicated, you know. But nonetheless, that's kind of how God made me. That's how I talk.
That's it, man.
Southern.
Makes you lean on him more, right?
Yeah, it does.
That's it.
Well, I mean, think about all the people in the Bible, though, that really couldn't speak.
For sure.
Well,
absolutely.
So Joel, if I may ask you, kind of following up how you were talking about, you know, God usually calls those people who aren't really trained to preach and to speak and all that. So all of a sudden you were saying like, hey, we got 250 students here. That's a lot of people to speak in front of. I mean, were you called to preach? Were you called to do music? Share your call with us a little bit, and then how are you encouraging your youth to hear the voice of God?
Right. It really started when, like you were talking about with your story, you know, being saved at 8 years old. Mine was similar age, and I remember being in a revival service, which back in the day, you know, and still a lot of churches do it this way, where, hey, Sunday through Wednesday, we're going to have a revival. And it was a scheduled event, and that's what I was at, and it was probably a Tuesday. It might be a Tuesday night at my church, and I remember praying at the altar at 9 years old and feeling that call, and I didn't really understand what that meant, you know, at 9 years old, but I understood like God was calling me to something with ministry. And from that point on, and still, sometimes today you have those like, am I doing what God's called me to do? And it's like, yeah, you're doing what God's called you to do. But, as human beings, we have our doubts in ourselves sometimes. But whenever the door kind of got open for me to start leading worship, I was like, okay, this is it. This is what God has for me. I'm going to be a worship leader. And I started going down that avenue, and I led worship at the church that I grew up in for 3 or 4 years. And then that door closed. The pastor of that church left at the time. New leadership came in, and we were kind of at a, not really a standstill, but like a crossroads, kind of, okay, God, where do you want us? And in that process of that 3 or 4 years, I made a lot of mistakes. I was 18 years old whenever I became the full-time worship leader at my church. And when I say full-time, it was full-time. It was like more of a volunteer kind of thing, but considered a full-time deal. And I remember I learned a lot of good lessons through that. I learned a lot of stuff I shouldn't do, just from your own faults and failures and things. And coming to that crossroads and thinking, like, God, what do you have next for us? And the door kind of came open for us to start attending Christ Chapel. We had it in our mind we were going to visit 4 or 5 other churches. Me and my wife were talking, and we're like, let's go visit around. Let's go see kind of what we want, And we visited Christ Chapel the first time, and I looked at her. I was like, "Are you good?" She said, "Yeah, I'm good. I think this is it." And
That's pretty cool.
so it was a pretty cool story, kind of how we got there. But at the same time, there were some things in areas of my life when we started going to the church there. I was 22, 23 years old, and not realizing it at the time, but still very immature in a lot of areas spiritually and, just personally. And trying to figure out, God, what do you have next for me? And I think sometimes those waiting seasons can be the most beneficial because it's where you grow, right? God has you in those, not that it was a valley situation, I was in a bad season, but it was, you have this in your mind, like I'm supposed to be doing something for God, and you have this idea of what that should be. Where in that waiting season, God's already using you if you open your eyes and look for it and see it. And God called me to a volunteer thing where it's like, hey, I'm going to serve at my church wherever God has me. And that door opened. Scott Custer got me involved when he was the worship pastor there, and I just started helping lead with him and playing guitar, singing, all of that good stuff, leading on Sundays. And I did that for 7 or 8 years. And then God started dealing with my heart about some things. And it was one of those things, you talked about, your background was like driving a truck for a while. And you got a lot of time to think and pray and different things when you're driving. And I was in a contracting job at the time. So I was going from different manufacturing company places. And there would be, moments where you'd be driving for a long period of time. So I'm sitting there driving, and God would, not really it would be a vision, but you'd have this thought. It was like a God-given thought, of me speaking to teenagers. And I was like, I don't know where that's coming from. I don't know if that's me. You have those moments in your life where God starts laying something on your heart and you just brush it off, It's like, nah. And God wouldn't leave me alone about it. And I always know, like, it's a weird way of saying it, but when I know it's a God thing is when he won't leave my spirit alone about it, right? Like, God just keeps, just pushing at those heartstrings. It's like, this is something you need to do. And I remember talking to Hugh Jr., which is Billy's brother, who's pastor at Christ Chapel Hampton, but at the time he was he was over student ministry in different areas as an executive pastor. And I talked to him. I was like, man, I want to get involved some way, somehow in student ministry. I just feel like I need to. So I'd love to volunteer in that. And I'm just trying to get his advice on how to go about that, who I needed to talk to. And he said, man, it's funny you say that. He said, we're actually looking for a youth pastor. There was about to be a change at the time. They knew Randy was going to be their first campus pastor. They started the campus in Hamilton and working through that whole process. So he's like, we're going to need somebody to take the youth ministry over whenever Randy steps into this new role. And I had no idea that was going on at the time. But that's kind of how God opened that door, and I was able to work with Randy for a while. And I told him, I had several conversations with Hugh beforehand before I actually came on full-time and became a youth pastor there. I was like, man, I don't even know why God's laying this on my heart. Because at the time, I had spoken a few times at my church that I grew up in, but I had always had this preconceived notion that I was a worship leader and that was it. Like, God doesn't, it's not in my personality to speak in front of people. It's not what he's given me to do. I didn't have any confidence in myself in that area to speak to teenagers. And, he just developed me, encouraged me, everything that you should do, whenever you got somebody that's dealing with that in their life, and just encouraged me to continue to pray and seek God on it if this is something that I needed to do. And I stepped into that role, man, and it, you take your licks there, you have good messages, you have messages, you're like, man, I don't know if that landed or not, but all along the way, you're learning, and God's, developing that in you and developing that. And not only, I think the biggest piece of it, with anything you step into, is understanding who you are, whether that's as a communicator, a speaker, as a person, and just understanding, along this journey over the last 4 years I've been at Christ Chapel in a full-time basis, is just understanding that, it's not really about the title that they have you in. It's, I'm a youth pastor, but I work for Christ Chapel. I'm in ministry. And at the end of the day, if we're believers, if we're Christians, whether we're in a full-time role or a volunteer role, we're all called to ministry. We're all called to preach the gospel and to share the good news of Jesus Christ. So those seasons in your life can change, right? Like, I can still get up and lead worship, and I do that some Sundays at different campuses. Sometimes I'm in Zebulon, sometimes in Barnesville, wherever God has me. But also, I do whatever I feel like God's leading me to do and calling me to do. And right now, He has me in a season where I get the opportunity to speak to middle school students. And that is such an honor for me at this season in my life, and just understanding kind of where I was as a teenager. So you try to be that person or that voice that you wish you would have had growing up, and it's been a huge blessing, but it's kind of how I got to that position. It's been a journey, because I'm hard-headed, man. Like I have an idea of something, and it's like, God's got to really work on me. It's like, no, this is what you think you're doing, but this is what we're going to be doing right now. We just got to get you there. So that's kind of how that came about.
That's really awesome.
I like how you said realizing, who you are. Like you said, we're all called to ministry.
Yes.
But part of that's realizing who you are, what your spiritual gifts are, what you like doing.
Yes. 100%.
Because God put what you like doing, He instilled that in all of us, and then using that in the ministry, you're going to be able to display real fruits of the Spirit.
Right. Absolutely.
I remember as a teenager, the place I was working, they asked me, their youth, the guy that owned the business, his youth minister was in there doing something, and they asked me to help him. I'm like, yeah, no problem. I'm a teenager. Yeah. And this is the youth minister. And I remember talking to this guy. I mean, this was, I'm just turned 50, so this was a while ago. I was probably 17 at the time.
Right.
But I remember talking to this guy. I'm helping him do this, and he was not displaying fruits of the Spirit, and he was not. I could tell. Maybe he was having a bad day, but I remember this from a teenager thinking, God did not call you to be a youth minister. I remember thinking that as a teenager, because I was active in my church. I'm like, I would not go be part of your youth group, because this guy, he was like, he made some comment along the lines of, you got to do whatever. When God calls you to do something, you got to do it regardless whether you like doing it or not. And I'm like, I don't know about that. I think if you're saying yes to God and He's called you to do something, you're going to have joy in what you're doing, serving the Lord. And I just remember, I'm like, I think God called him to something else. It was not you. He answered, he saw a need to be fulfilled and jumped in to do something that he was not gifted to do. But I remember that. So you got, as a teenager, so you got to be careful the impression that you're giving to these teenagers, because that guy left a very bad impression on me. And I'd grown up in church, and I was happy with my youth group that I was involved with, but I was like, I wouldn't go to that youth group.
I think sometimes we got to be careful, when God does call you to something, because I've seen this with different situations, and just kind of looking back in my past, like, you can get really, if you're not careful, you can almost become bitter with the calling God's giving you, because maybe it doesn't look like what you thought it would look like.
Right.
And you start having those self-doubts about, did I really hear from God, or is it just something I jumped into and I'm in over my head and I don't know what I'm doing? And there's aspects of that whenever you do step into a call, because sometimes God will put you in the deep end to let you experience that. He's still got a hold of you, but sometimes it feels like, God, I'm drowning. It's like, no, you're not drowning, but we have you here to grow you. But you can get to a place where you almost become bitter because God has placed you somewhere, and maybe financially you're not doing as well as you would like to in that season of your life, because as you're serving, life's also happening, right? So you're serving in a ministry, but at the same time, you have a family to provide for and take care of. So there's all these things that as human beings, and emotions that we feel. So it can get to a place to where if you're serving in an area or in a ministry, it's like maybe your heart's not in the right place. Sometimes that may mean that you're not in the right area. You're not serving in the right area.
Right.
You're on the wrong seat of the bus. Maybe you should be on the bus, but you're just not on the right seat.
Right.
But, in ministry, you see it all the time, man. You can get very burnt out, or you can get bitter in certain seasons of your life, and God's not called us to be any of those things.
You're right.
I mean,
Go ahead.
it's. I think we don't realize sometimes how difficult ministry can be for pastors. It don't show enough appreciation. We had one pastor on here, and he made the comment, he's commanded to feed the sheep, but he's like, but the sheep bite.
Yeah.
They do.
And I was
They
like,
do.
oh yeah. So I mean, there's a book I'm reading. I wish I brought it in here to really read out this excerpt in the book. It's called "Make a Break for It" by Bill Purvis, which is the pastor down in the church in Columbus.
Yeah.
But he was talking about in this book that people often want to change everything around them, their circumstances, to make something better without looking at themselves
100%.
and changing themselves.
100%.
I'm like, because if you change your circumstances without changing yourself, you're going to end up in the exact same place.
Yeah.
And I was just, and if you think about it, you see that with churches, people going from church to church to church to church to church. And I'm like, maybe you need to look at yourself.
It's not the church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen that my whole life. If you grow up in any church, you see that. And you see it in people with relationships too, in marriages.
Yeah.
Going from significant other to significant other, and I'm just like, maybe have you not looked to see that you're the common denominator?
For sure. No, that's a lot of truth to that, for sure.
Well, I mean, I kind of think that we're all clay. I think we're still getting molded.
Absolutely.
I'll say this too. I don't think that God calls people necessarily who are 100% equipped for the job. I think sometimes he calls the people who are not equipped for the job for the job. I mean, man, it's like, I'll say this. So when we were at Southside at Andy Stanley's church in Peachtree City, you were talking about you work as a switcher. So they had a really cool setup.
Yeah.
And the way they had their setup, the actual production room was in a private room blocked off from the actual sanctuary. So you couldn't even see the sanctuary, and everything you saw was what was being broadcasted. Whether it be broadcasted on the screens in the sanctuary or whether it be broadcasted online. Yeah. All right. So this was an introvert's paradise. This is like, I was like,
no one ever came in here.
This is so amazing. We had 10 people that worked within that one thing. There were 16 people that would work outside of that room in production, but 10 production workers were inside that room. So every single week, whenever I attended, what I did was I was a shader, the most unknown person of the whole group. Some people, they're the title people. So everything that flashes on the screen, that's called the title guy. And then certain people, they were like the switcher. He was like the I guess, director. He was like the head honcho of the bunch, and he would switch from camera A to C to B to D to whatever. And then I was the shader, and I sat beside the switcher. And my whole time there, basically, I had to hear what he said. He would say, I'm switching from camera A to C. I would have to, and this all happened in milliseconds, I would have to switch to camera C before it went live. I would have to make sure that the lights, which were always changing, hadn't changed a hue of the face of the pastor or the singer or whoever. Yeah, so that and I had to make, like, this all happened in split seconds, but I had to make adjustments to bring the tones up, and it was all done by levels, not visual sight. So you would level it and make sure that it was all right. All right. So that's an introvert's paradise, man. I was sitting there every single Sunday. I was like, I couldn't wait. And then whenever I started at Christ Chapel and we started attending, I talked to Billy. We'd had several times we'd go out for breakfast or lunch, and I told him, I was like, man, I just don't know where God wants me to serve here. And I went into a paralysis, if you will, and I didn't serve for a good period of time, which it was my natural instinct to serve. So, and then I was wanting to do something important, and I was wanting to do something that was a need for, and it was like, what I didn't want to do is I didn't want to do a minuscule task that had me in an extroverted position that I was going to be uncomfortable with. And I didn't want to do something like that I thought, like, well, God can get somebody else to do this. I'm talented in this, or I'm talented in that. And surely God's going to use me in my talents. And actually, I can't sing or hold a tune in a bucket, just to be clear. But I am musically inclined. Right. So I was like, I'm going to write music for the band. I'm going to write songs for the band. That's what I want to do. And I even told Billy, I was like, well, I still feel like, and this is the weirdest thing in the world, I feel like God put a song in my heart, but I hadn't put it on paper, and I needed somebody who could work with me to put it all down and to collaborate and create a song for the church. All right. I had this song, and I reached out to a guy who I've known for pretty much my whole life, and he happens to be one of the members there in the band, and we never could get it together where we could get together and actually write this song. So I was like, well, Billy, one day I'm going to write a song. Billy, I hadn't wrote that song yet, but I'm going to one day. One day I'm going to join, and I'm going to start writing music with the band. One day. And it kept on being one day. And then finally my wife was like, when are we going to plug in and start serving again? Because, like, you've been waiting on this one day that still ain't happened yet. And if I'm not mistaken, you were the one that said that we all needed to be serving in our community. And so I was like, yes, ma'am. So then we ended up taking a position where I see Joel all the time, where I'm a greeter. And it's like the most extroverted position of the whole church.
See everybody.
I see everybody and have to shake everybody's hand and be like, good morning.
I'm the most extroverted position. That's
you can't really get more extroverted than the guy who literally sees every single person that walks into the church. It's like, wow.
And you do a great job, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like, I just feel like I didn't necessarily feel it. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But there again, I'm 100% trying to be obedient and trying to be obedient and just trying to serve and which is what we're commanded to do. Jesus took the disciples and washed their feet, man. Like he cleaned their feet. So it's like, I knew that if there was a position available, I did need to serve. Yeah. And so I still hadn't wrote that song. I still hadn't gotten together with the band. And that's kind of one of my thoughts and one of my dreams is and don't just be very clear, don't have any desire, zero desire to play an instrument in front of people. Zero. In front of one guy that we're collaborating with, yes. In front of an audience, zero. a strong hard zero.
It's the introverts. Like, I want to be the ghostwriter of this song.
That's me. That's me. That's me.
Nobody even has to know.
I know, man.
Give me
Look,
no
we're gonna
credit.
give God all the credit. We're gonna sit here written by God, like this, because I don't want to be a part of that. But in the same sense, I do think that that was where my heart was, and God was like, "I bet you thought you was gonna write a song. I got one better for you. You're gonna be in the most extroverted position of the church."
But it's such an important position. I mean, when we first came to Christ Chapel, that was one of the, it's the first faces you see is the people that are greeting you, right?
Yeah.
And back then, when it was on Sullivan Road, there's like one door in, one door out. It was like whoever you saw, that's who you saw. That's before they kind of built the little lean-to deal on and added the classroom and all that at that other place. If you'd ever been to that building, for the longest time, I would drive by Sullivan Road before we started going to church. I was like, "Where's the church at?" And it was just a tin building.
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, that's the church. Okay, cool." So. But there was one guy, man. He was standing there, and when we were kind of in between services, they had already started 2 services at that point. When we went our first Sunday, and like you said, man, it's that most extroverted position. He was the guy. You open the door, and he's the first person you saw. But just the way we were greeted that morning set the stage for the whole rest of the service, like for that experience. And I think that's still going on to this day. There's people that visit not just Christ Chapel, but any church. The greeters have such an important role. Like, for somebody just to smile and greet you and be happy to see you at church that morning sets the stage for worship, sets the stage for the message that's going to be delivered. Like, that's a huge piece. And it's probably not one that, gets the recognition it deserves, but absolutely, like, just having that welcome presence on a Sunday morning that can be one thing that changes somebody's mind as soon as they walk in the door. So it's a huge piece of it.
The lady I'm dating, she was a greeter at Christ Chapel, Tina, and now she's joined Rock Springs with me.
Yeah.
But when we first
Love
started,
it,
we started dating, and she would be on schedule to greet. So I'd show up at Christ Chapel, and I'm being a greeter with her, and I'm like, I'm not even a member here, and I'm greeting.
How you doing?
Shaun and his family come walking up one Sunday. He's like, "What are you doing?" I'm helping Tina greet.
Yeah, got voluntold.
Yeah. I was tripping out, man. I was like, we didn't pull into Rock Springs this morning. Like, did the GPS get us wrong?
Right.
But it's really cool to see y'all, and then to know that Tina did that. She was at the guest tent. Yeah. So that's what position really she had. Like, so she was literally the very first person before you even get to the door. She's like, "Hey, good morning."
Perfect for that role. Too,
yeah,
there's people that have those personalities. You need that, and that's a God-given thing. I probably wouldn't be the best person to put at that role, but depending on the morning, like I said, more introverted. So I think with introverts, it kind of drains us to be around people, which sounds terrible, but the more interaction you have with people, the more it kind of drains your energy. Extroverts, man, it's like that builds them up. Like, they're energized, man. They recharge us, man. So it's just personality things. Yeah. Not to say that you can't do it, but it is a little more taxing in that area.
It is. I think that that was the thing that I have learned. So I came from a background, like I said, of trucking. So for 20 years, I was in introvert heaven. I'm sorry.
Sitting in a truck by yourself.
So in a truck by yourself, just chilling out, listening to radio, doing your own thing. And then whenever I got into real estate, that was still, it was in my mind, and still to this day, it's how you do real estate. But I can do one-on-one. I can take a family through a house and be completely present and be amazing with one family, or one guy, he's selling his house or buying a house, or that I'm great with. What I had to push beyond, what I had to do was I had to grow. I had to grow in this season and learn that God created me for more than just me. He actually needs me to go out and actually join community and to be a presence in that community, pointing everybody to him. And without me joining a community, I'm not pointing anybody to him. And I realized that, even though my natural instinct is one-on-ones, I need to push beyond that. I need to grow. I need to do something that I'm not comfortable with. And in doing so, God's opened up a lot of doors for me in my life to continue to grow that muscle. And now, like, I'm really good with being in front of a crowd doing bingo. I mean, I'm really good. I like I said, I was on the leadership council for my office, and during that period of time, like I had to routinely teach classes and do stuff where I was the one guy in front of an audience, and it's like what people need to hear right now is God still is the God of provisions. He gives me the the ability to go beyond what is in my comfort zone and what I feel like I'm capable of.
Yeah.
And then he brings me to a different level where, hey, Shaun looks like an extrovert. Shaun is so not an extrovert, but I can do well because of what God has blessed me with, and because of God pushing me and expanding me, growing me, and my willingness to say, yes, God, whatever you want for me today. And that's my prayer. And that's kind of what gives me the walk without fear, is knowing that whenever I get up this morning and I hit my knees and we pray, that I literally am praying, committing this day, each and every day, to God. And I say yes to whatever he puts on my plate. Now, does that mean that I want these, experiences that push me out of my comfort zone? It's not natural for me. But what I do want is God's will in my life. And if it takes me getting uncomfortable to see God moving in my life, I'm okay with being uncomfortable. And to the point of the Good Samaritan, like, a priest walked by him. People that were supposed to stop didn't stop, but it was one guy he was Samaritan, which was looked down upon. And he was like, I am going to do something uncomfortable. I'm going to help a man out who could very well cuss me out in the process, but I'm going to just be obedient. I'm going to show up. I'm going to help. I'm going to serve. I'm going to say yes to uncomfortable. And God used him so much so that story is in the Word of God. It's in the Bible. And we all have heard, like, that's something that even if people don't know the Bible well, they've heard the story of the Good Samaritan. So I encourage anybody listening today, if you feel challenged, I pray about it. I'm not saying jump through doors that you don't, that are out of a 20-story building. I'm not saying that, but I am saying, if God is behind you and you've prayed about it and you've given your heart to Him and you've committed to fulfilling His will in your life, sometimes it may get uncomfortable, but saying yes to God is truly how we grow here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think you should close us out in prayer with that.
That is a really good.
Pray for the group for that.
Yeah.
Take that step of faith.
Love it.
All right. Y'all ready to roll?
Yeah.
Ready?
All right. Lord God, I want to thank you for this day. I want to thank you for the gentlemen that are here with us. And I just want to praise you, Lord, for all the blessings you've shown us in our lives and all the uncomfortable moments that you've been with us and never left our side. Lord, I thank you so much for Joel and what he's doing with the youth at Christ Chapel. And Lord, I thank you so much for just his story and knowing that he's being obedient even whenever it is challenging. And even it wasn't his plan, Lord, I thank you so much for him saying yes to your plan in his life. Lord, I pray that as we move forward through this day, each and every person that's watching, Lord, I pray that they were able to get something out of this. And I pray that this day is just blessed and given to you by all of us. And Lord, our answer to you is yes. And I thank you so much for just everything that you've done for us in this show, trying to get out your commission, the Great Commission, telling everybody about you and how much you're alive today. Lord, in all these things I pray in Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
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 Well, thank y'all so much for joining us. And until next week, see you bye.
Hey, you go!